One letter can save a life. One letter, 100 letters can save even the security of indigenous people to not to be removed forcibly and from their land. Land, territory, resources are the issue that is common to all indigenous peoples in this moment. My name is José Francisco Calí Tzay. I am a Cachiquel Mayan from Guatemala. I am the Special Rapporteur on Indigenous Peoples' Rights from the United Nations. I'm here in Tucson, Arizona, invited by the university to support my work as a Special Rapporteur. I will do my best to cover all the situation of the indigenous people around the world, but 3 years is too short to work with all the indigenous peoples.
Every year, the Special Rapporteur submits a report to the UN General Assembly and to the UN Human Rights Council. And so this year, the topics that were chosen were COVID-19 recovery and urban indigenous issues. I'm supervising the students that are assisting with the research and drafting of the Special Rapporteur's reports and overseeing the other staff and faculty that are involved in this project. We have help from the School of Social and Behavioral Sciences and the Human Rights Practice Program there.
The human rights student and the law students work together to draft a report. They have to review inputs that comes from indigenous local communities, indigenous organizations, and human rights organizations.
For our students to have that ability to work at the highest levels of the United Nations human rights system on cases of global impact around the world, there's just no other institution in the world could do it. So I grabbed at the chance, of course. Jim and I worked together in developing the infrastructure to run a very, very successful special rapporteurship. Jim was really elevated that rapporteurship, started a petition procedure that has not been done before, really built the modern infrastructure and was reappointed. And so we were able, for those 6 years to really understand what it takes to do that type of work.
To be a human rights defender is a very difficult task in life because you have to be almost all the time away from your family. I've been raised by my family talking about the wonderful civilization and wonderful people that we are. And when we got to school, in the school they were teaching us that we are the shame of the country because we were Indians, dirty Indians, lazy Indians. They were not allowing, especially girls, to dress their traditional dress. And we have to go to court to demonstrate to them that we have the right to dress our traditional dress. We won several cases in court, even that we were kids. We started to be involved also defending the local forest. I was so happy doing that, helping my people, until the internal war increased in Guatemala. This is a cultural issue, but we didn't know that we were doing this. We were questioning the status quo of the state. In 1981, I was forced to leave my country as a political refugee to Canada. I started to be related with the Assembly of First Nations, which was one of the biggest national organizations of Native people of Canada. And then I met Rigoberta Menchú. She asked me for all the work that I was doing there relating with indigenous people. I was not willing to go to the United Nations. She invited me the first time to be part of the Guatemalan indigenous people delegations to the United Nations. And it's when I started to have also relationship with the International Indian Treaty Council. So I started to have more broader relationship with the international indigenous movement. My life has been very difficult, but I think has been a wonderful way of living the life, trying to defend the right of the indigenous peoples.
I met Francisco Calí Tzay when he was an expert on the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, and I was representing an indigenous group before that treaty body, and that was probably over 10 years ago now, and so here he is at the University of Arizona. It's a valuable experience for students that are interested in getting into the field of human rights and possibly working for the United Nations. They have to learn how to draft in a particular style.
I'm very fortunate to be the research scholar for Francisco Calí Tzay. And I'm also a student, which is my great good fortune, of Professor Shauna Howard, who's just a brilliant light in this area. And she co-hosts the clinical program with Professor Pancho, is what we call him, Calí Tzay. And I've had the opportunity to work on issues, matters, cases for Indigenous people around the globe. I have never written in UN speak before. I've been a lawyer for 30 years, but my advocacy was developed in a completely different context. The United Nations is a much more diplomatic arena, and the language has to match the vibration of diplomacy.
The really important thing is to have the students learn the process, because we want them to stand for the rights of indigenous people and to see what they are really going through.
Not only was it to do research to further advocate for indigenous people, but for the UN Rapporteur and I to share the same background, the same nationality. That was very inspiring for the work that comes ahead, because the work doesn't end. Part of his leadership is very humble, and I think I want to carry myself that way as well. So.
What we want to do is get states to basically obey their own laws and protect the human rights of all their citizens. And that's why these systems exist.
I can tell the students of human rights that follow your spirit of justice, follow your instinct, follow your human instinct. We are all brothers and sisters in this world. There are not any difference between any other people. The only thing, the difference is that the opportunity that we have. You as a student here in the United States, you have to take that opportunity to form yourself academically, to help other people to do it, because you can make a big difference in the world in this moment.